Poddin My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Welcome back to the season finale of Poddin My Noggin, the first season finale of Poddin My Noggin. Wow, we made it. I am filming today's episode on December 31st in the morning. It's approximately 10 minutes to 8 Eastern time. And I come to you this morning with immense gratitude and a lot of awe, actually, when I think about what I've done this year with this show. And it's really interesting because 1 year ago today, I was extremely sick, with a massive cold. And I prepared, so my New Year's Eve festivities were to record my first episode. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, but my first episode, I didn't have what I'm using right now, Riverside. I didn't have some of the tools that I have now that I've learned along the way, skills, things like that. So, I think I used Clipchamp by Microsoft as the first episode to record and audio the whole thing. And it was my first time using like a proper podcast mic or, microphone. And so to me, I thought the microphone has to be pretty close to your face. And what happened was, and I've talked about this before, but I just got to tell this story. So it was December 31st, 2023, and it was 7 o'clock at night, and I sat down and I recorded my first podcast, sick. So I had taken medication, of course, to try and control like the coughing and things like that. And then I recorded, and I really wanted to be able to record in one take and be authentic and just talk about, my life and that sort of thing. And I did talk about a lot of my life. And to me, I look back at it and I was like, it was a good podcast. It was a good introduction to who I was and what I wanted to do with the show. Anyway, fast forward like a day or two when I sit down to actually try and edit. And I will tell you right automatically that editing video or that stuff is just not part of my wheelhouse, my skill set. So anyway, I started playing this episode and I'm listening in earbuds because my best friend was here and he was working while I was editing. So he was in my office, I was in the living room. And so the mic was close to my face. And because I was sick, I was swallowing a lot. You know how you do because you have phlegm or whatever the situation may be. I was swallowing a lot. Well, and when I say a lot, I mean like every 15, 20 seconds. And the mic picked up every single swallow. Everyone. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, there's no way I can put this out there. And I think it took me probably a good solid 4 days to put it through every possible, and I didn't know like the tools that you could use, and I don't even remember where the different programs I put it through. In the end, I used Audacity, downloaded it. I don't know what settings I did, but I think like noise suppression or something like that. In the end, I was able to process the audio track separately from the video track and remove I don't know if I removed it or just compressed it or whatever the situation may have been, got rid of the sound of the swallows, right? And then was able to just put the audio track back over the video track. And because they were the same length, they lined up really well. And my first episode created and published. And oh my gosh, I had no idea what I was doing. Like I did research and all of that sort of thing. I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew was in 2023, I've talked about this before as well, is that I was packaged out from my corporate job, the one that I thought I was going to be at for until retirement, which is like 27 years from now. And it was a shock, absolutely, without question. But I couldn't help but feel like the universe was literally removing an obstacle for me to do something more with my life, to really step into things that I've dreamt about my whole life. And so, yeah, I wrote a book. I rewrote a book. I wrote the book originally in 2008. So I wrote the book and then released it in March 30th this year. It's called Life in Stitches. It's done okay. I'm an unknown author. So, like, maybe it'll be like 20 years from now, it'll be, maybe people will have purchased it. Who knows? I have no idea. And I started a podcast. So the podcast for me was like, I've always, like, since I was a wee child, loved Oprah. I love talk shows. I love that sort of thing. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to connect with people and have great conversations and great meaningful conversations. And that was my plan, right? That was my whole plan, is just, creating a show where we talk about adversity and how we got through it, and really defining our own version of success, because everybody has their own definition of success. Success, I think, as a society, we're looking at making great money, being financially comfortable, wealthy, top of our game, like all of those particular things. But that's not success for everybody, right? Like the success for a homeless person may look very different than the success for an Ivy League graduate. Then the success for someone who grew up really poor may look really different than someone who grew up in middle class or middle to upper class. So we can't just blanket success and what that means. It literally is different for every single person. And my version of success has changed so much throughout the years, that, my version of success is having a show that people like to watch and tune into. So having that would be a version of success. It doesn't need to be by the hundreds of millions or anything like that, but something where people like to come and enjoy listening to me talk and talk to other people with really cool, great stories. One of my other, versions of success is I really want my own home. I want to have my own house, something to call my own. I always say to my best friends, I'm like, I just want a place that if I want to put a hole in the wall, I can put a hole in the wall. And it's only me who has to be considered in that action. And so I'm not a violent person, so I probably wouldn't put a hole in the wall. But like a place to call my home, to have it be truly my own, and to make it my safe place, my refuge, all of those things. If I wanted to put an archway somewhere, I could just, it's not a matter of like I have to ask for permission. It's just like a matter of I have to pay someone to come in, or I'm going to do it myself. You know what I mean? So that's, something that's a part of what I would define success. And for me, financially, yes, I want to be comfortable and well off, but I want to be, it's not necessarily about being filthy rich or super wealthy or anything like that. It's just about being able to live comfortably. So if I'm going through something and I need to, drop everything and just take time to rest, because as I've mentioned in my podcast before, I have type 2 bipolar disorder. Sometimes I go through upswings, or sometimes I go through really bad bouts of depression. And, it's having to be up all the time to do that sort of thing. It keeps me going, of course. But having the opportunity and then just the knowing in the back of your head that you could take time off to just sort of rest and recoup, recharge your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your heart health, everything, that would be a version of my success as well. And then additionally, I am someone who loves to gift or do nice things for other people, and being in a position where I can do those things without having to think about it, or to say save for it, because I just have enough access to funds where I can say, you know what, my best friends had a year. I have two. I've told you this before. My best friends had a rough year. I want to take them on a really great trip. All expense paid, so that they can just sort of sit back and relax because they're worth it. And I want them to know that they're worth it. And then with the show, I really want to get to a place where I can start. Always love the clips of doing nice things for people and finding really deserving people in the world who work hard or struggle, and just kind of surprising them. Like, that's something that's really important to me. So those are my goals for 2025, right? And continuing goals for building the foundation of this show. And one other thing, and I'm going to put it out there into the universe, is one day, like, I don't know, I don't think I want to necessarily be picked up by network television at any point. I don't know if that's a part of my plan, because then comes so much regulation, and I just want to be able to have a show that's free from all of that, and just enjoyable. But one thing I have in my heart of desires, if you will, is to transform the show into a show that is filmed on a daily basis and also filmed in front of a studio audience. So just a small little studio audience, like a small little space. There's maybe like 50 people that come in, and they sit down, and we have a little show, and we have our guests and things like that. And eventually transitioning into being able to have in-person interviews. But all of these things take time, and they take growth and planning and strategy and all of that stuff. So not yet, but it's coming. One day I know for sure it's going to come. And we're looking back again at 2023 when I recorded that first episode. And I remember being, like I said, packaged out and thinking to myself that this could be the universe removing an obstacle. And I've always been so afraid to put myself out there, like terribly afraid, low self-esteem, lots of insecurities, all of that sort of thing. And 2023 and then 2024 specifically was about me stepping out from behind fear. And I've called it out before. It was never about the fear's no longer there, because the fear was there. Fear's a little bit there still, but it's about being afraid but doing it anyway, right? We could flop, we could fail, we may not get that many views or that many like subscriptions, if you will. It wasn't about that. And so like today, this marks 1 year exactly of, you know, the beginning of Poddin My Noggin, and me hosting this podcast and this show. And to me, it's momentous for me because, like, I didn't reach a ton of people this year. I didn't have, you know, 1 million subscribers follow me on YouTube. I haven't had that many streams on Spotify. Someone could look at my stats and my numbers and say, well, okay, you did all this and you got nothing. And so on paper, maybe I got nothing. But for me, I got everything. It's defining your version of success. Would I have loved to have made, say, 1 million subscribers and 1 million people watching me within the first year? Absolutely. That would have been so cool, right? But I have had a very transformative year as a human being. So I absolutely started this year, absolutely hating, cringing anytime I heard my own voice. Okay. On recorded voice, if you will. And I always have this jarring moment where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so gay. I sound so gay. And it took a lot, but over the course of the year, editing myself, hearing my voice back, it's like, okay, yeah, you know what? No denial. You sound gay without question. What's wrong with that? That's who you are. It's not like you change your voice. Yeah, I can change my voice if I want to talk like this. Yeah, we can totally do a show the whole way where I'm just sort of that would be faking it, right? This is just my natural voice, and it sounds super gay, and I embrace it. But it was a struggle for me in the beginning of this year to hear myself play back, and that's growth, right? I think accepting who you are and where you're at is really paramount in growth. Knowing that who you are, like if you change who you are to achieve something, I mean, and okay, let me back up for a second. There's change because growth is change, right? When we grow, we actually change. But if you look at something in yourself and you pretend to be something that you're not to try and achieve your goals, you're never going to find satisfaction. You're never going to find fulfillment in that. It's going to become work. And yes, while throughout this year, with everything else happening in my life, the podcast, there was a period where the podcast became work. But not once did I think to myself, I don't have the numbers. I'm not doing this anymore. Something I realized actually in the summer when I was going through probably the thick of the podcast is like too much. I have my workplace very full, all those things is when I get online with someone and we're having a conversation about their work or their story, something happens within me, inside me, that recharges me and makes me feel happy and fulfilled and blessed and grateful and just absolutely like I'm doing the right thing. And so, while on paper, my season one of Poddin My Noggin may not look like it did so well, or that to a lot, maybe it looks like it was never worth it. To me, I have had 42 guests on this show. 43, because I had one repeat. Matt O'Neill was a repeat when we were talking about his book, Good Mood Revolution. So 43 conversations with people on this show this year. Great conversations, mind-bending conversations, healing conversations, learning conversations. It all started out with Jen Lord, who was my very first guest, second episode of Pod My Noggin. She was so gracious to come on the show. She's so ridiculously talented as a photographer, and just her being is just wonderful. She was very impactful for me in the work that she did. And she was my first guest, and I just felt I won the lottery, right? And then that was a great conversation. And then I was, I filmed on just independently myself a few shows on topics that were important to me. I think I did one on digital disinhibition, which is online hate. Behind the podcast, I did that one as well. Then Andrea McGrath came along, and that was such a beautiful conversation about mental health. And she was able to turn her love for candles and mental health advocacy into a business idea where a percentage of her profits go to, it was the Trevor Project. I think it's still the Trevor Project, or it might have changed. I'm not sure, but it's to a great cause for mental health. And then I remember at some point before Andrea McGrath, even just saying on an episode that like what I want is to connect with more guests, right? And then it was like I put it out there in the universe, and then all of a sudden I had more guests than what I knew to do with. Like there were so many. And through time, I ended up finding this really great platform called Podmatch that you can sign up and put what it is you're looking for in your profile, and then it matches you to like people, but then you can search their database of people who are potential guests and invite them. But then also people who want to be guests on podcasts can find your profile page and send you a message. And, you know, I've received hundreds of requests to be on the show, and it's just like my goal this year was 52. I'm one episode shy, but I'm okay with that. I really am. And I just ended up finding quality guests and really great, interesting people to talk to along the way. And I am so grateful and so blessed to have had each and every single one of those conversations. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's appeared on the show this year. And I wanted to do sort of like a highlight reel, if you will, for this particular episode to sort of take a look back at all my guests in season 1 of Poddin My Noggin. So right now we're going to take a quick moment and have a look at all my guests in 2024 on season 1, Poddin My Noggin. Roll the tape.
CKS Media.
Welcome back. And oh, I love it. The gratitude and how my heart swells when I watch that. I have to give a shout out. So in the beginning of the year, it was just me doing everything. I told you that I'm not a video editor. It's just not a part of my skill set. Like I can make do, but I'm not great at it. And one of the blessings that I did find along the way was Riverside. I was looking for Jen Lord, actually. So it was pretty much in the beginning of the journey. I was having my first guest and I started to panic. I was like, well, what am I going to use to record? And I looked at Teams and I looked at Zoom and like there was Skype and there was so many different things. And I kept seeing this Riverside.fm thing populate. And I think it was maybe the .fm part that was the initial sort of barrier to me. Plus, I had never heard of it before. And yeah, I kept seeing it, but I never clicked on it. Anyway, long story short, I finally was just like, okay, what is this Riverside.fm? And I clicked on it and looked around and all of that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if this works. I've never used it before. But I signed up. I signed up to give it a try. I think that I'm not sure if I remember this or not, but I feel like they had a trial. Like you could try it for so many days before you had to purchase. And I think that is what I did. And so Riverside.fm made this real like way easier. If I didn't have it, like I don't know if I would have been able to handle all of the work in editing because there is a lot of work when it comes to that sort of thing. Riverside.fm makes it super easy to, and not super easy. You still have to know certain things and all of that stuff, but they just make it. They're designed for podcasters. That's what they're designed for, and they make it. They give you a studio, if you will, where you can have a link that you can send to your guest so that, you know, when it's time to film, they can pop in and then it shows them waiting in the lobby and you can add them and you can connect and say, hey, you know, this is how this show is going to go. Have you used Riverside before? This is how this works. This is how that works, yada, yada, yada. And then you can hit record and it does a countdown of 5. And then during that recording process, you get to see your upload because it's uploaded in tracks, 2 files. So the guest file and your own file. And you can see as you're going through how much of that has been uploaded. And it was a game changer for me because you can also edit by transcripts. So like something I learned early on is if I wanted to edit, right, all I had to do was, especially when I got my commercials made and all of that sort of thing to put in the middle, was go and stop talking. So it's funny. I just did it when I sent you to watch that video of my guest this year. Was literally all I have to do is say, okay, roll the tape, or we're going to go to break and we'll be right back, and then pause. Like just stop, no voice, no sound for like 6 seconds. And what happens there is on the other end, when you're editing it, they have a feature where you can remove all pauses greater than what you set. So anything like say you want to keep the pace pretty steady, you can say remove all pauses greater than 1 second, or if you really want it super fast, you can bring it down to I think it's like 0.5 seconds. All pauses greater than 0.5 seconds. And so when that happens, you remove your pauses. Then you find in the transcript, because you get the video and the transcript on the side, you find in the transcript where I say, we're going to go to break, we'll be right back. You find that, and then you split on the pause, and boom, it's gone. You just edited your show in 2 parts. You can remove pauses at the end of your show. Yeah, it was a blessing in disguise. And there's so many cool things about Riverside.fm. If you are wanting to start a podcast, or even if you have one and you are struggling to edit or make things work, check out Riverside SM, best investment of my life. They're not even that expensive, considering all of the cool tools that they have. And I'm only touching the surface. But what I want to do right now is over the last couple months, I'll tell you, I'm going to set this up real quick. There's a lot of things going on in the world. I was on social media, all of the social medias, right? You know, that's one of our conduits to try and promote the show and engage with audiences and that sort of thing. And anyway, I found myself in the summer, the late summer, realizing that social media is affecting my mental health, and because there's just so much shit on it. And so I removed it all. I removed everything. And I stopped posting to social media because in order to post, you have to be on it, right? I just didn't want to see anything. I just wanted to live in my bubble and be happy. Focus on my work, focus on my podcast and sewing, because I sew, and I had a number of quilts I wanted to make for the holidays for Christmas. So I removed everything. Now, God answers prayer. Everybody, if you've watched the show, will know that I am a gay Christian. Oxymoron for many people, but love me Jesus. Love me some Jesus. Absolutely. Pray to him daily. He's the reason I'm still alive. God sent me a treasure of a human being. So a few months back, it's not been too long, but a few months back, I was contacted by Rebecca C. Creative. Loved the show, wanted to help. And I was like, what? Okay, help how? And they wanted to help with production and social media management, the two areas that I needed the most help. Literally, the two areas I needed the most help. And I was like, okay, budgets, all of those particular things, I can do this. This is great. I am so grateful for you. I cannot tell you that she is a light in the dark of a human being. She has put so much joy in doing this podcast back into my life, because I don't have to think about the social media component, but the social media component is happening again. And it's, you know, I was told that I just had my first clip that went over 10K, and it was a collaborative clip with Anna Priz. And then I reached another achievement of 25 watch hours on a single clip, also with Anna Priz. She's very popular. And we're reaching accounts, and people are hearing about Poddin My Noggin and all of those things. And that's all because of her. She's incredibly smart, incredibly talented, incredibly kind, and honestly, like a lifesaver. And I don't know if she'll ever know how much and how impactful her coming on board and helping me out has truly been. And if I could give her millions of dollars, I would absolutely do that. One day I will hopefully be able to have her 100% run everything design and production wise for my business, with like a wonderful salary to boot. So here we are. And she's the one, just FYI, she's the one from Rebecca C. Creative. She's the one who just did that video of watching of our guest for the last for season 1 of Poddin My Noggin, and she's ramping up. She does great work, and I'm so grateful for her. So thank you, Rebecca. I'm being mindful of time. I don't want it to be a super long podcast because it's New Year's Eve and everybody has probably plans to go live their lives. I want to say one thing. I think, I put some stuff out in the world and onto the podcast before, I guess, a version of manifestation. And I think this year, what I would like to see is some sponsorships from people who want to align themselves with someone who just wants to shed light in this world. And that's all I really want to do, is shed light in this world, have great conversations that help other people, have a show that people enjoy coming and watching. Um, and in the beginning, I would absolutely use like sponsorship money in advertising to like get like my show's reach further out there. But that's what I want this year is I've got the guests, they're coming in, great quality guest. I have a production and design manager, which is an answer from God. So now I would like to have some sponsorships where we can do giveaways, and uh, I want to talk to more authors. I want to get to read more authors' books and then have giveaways for those books. Like, I want to talk to some independent artists this year, who we can have like mini shows on the podcast where they're performing a song or two. Like, these are the things that I want to do in 2025 with Poddin My Noggin. And I'm putting it out there, and I'm telling the universe that I'm ready and ready to receive. So, yes, once again, I want to thank everybody who has come on the show, this little show, contributed by being a guest. Um, for everyone who's tuned in, and watched the show or consumed any component of the show, I am deeply grateful. Like I said before, while not successful on paper, to me, I feel like I had such great success this year, considering where I was exactly 1 year ago today. And like, just thinking about 51 episodes, 42 guests, 43 conversations, like, that's mind boggling to me. I couldn't have imagined that coming to fruition 1 year ago today. Like, that I would be sitting in this seat right now, having this conversation, reflecting on such, to me, a momentous and tremendous year in connection, in storytelling, in authenticity and transparency. I've shared a lot about my life on the show over the last year, and I continue to do that. That's going to continue to be my format as we move forward, into season 2. And we have some really great guests coming up in season 2 this year, and I'm excited about it. Some background changes, maybe. Yeah, so here we are, December 31st. 2024. We're at the cusp of a brand new year. I know that there are a lot of anxieties and a lot of fear surrounding what's to come. I have them too. Um, it is strange times in this world and scary times. We don't know what to expect from the next 4 years. So all I will say is this. Sometimes we have to turn off the noise because we're oversaturated with social media, and we're oversaturated with hate and discrimination and this, that, and the other thing. Sometimes you just have to turn off the noise. So if you feel like you're becoming overwhelmed or you're becoming fearful, sometimes, I'm not saying it to avoid the world. What I'm saying is to turn it down a little bit. Focus on what's right in front of you, your family, your life goals. Don't live small, be big. Live big, but be focused. And I think there's two sides to every coin, and we just have to be really kind in 2025. First, to ourselves. That kindness has to start here. If there's no love for self, then we're not truly able to love outwardly, right? But if we show love to ourselves, it automatically, in time, starts becoming outwardly. That kindness to people who are different than us, who have different views than us, that is so paramount. And we're going to need that now more than ever, to show people kindness, despite what their views are, to show ourselves kindness. despite what's happening in the world. All I can say is that I will continue to pray. I will continue to focus on creating a space where we can tell uplifting stories. I will just continue to focus on my personal growth and achieving the things that I want to achieve in the world, despite what the madness may be happening out in other parts of the world and even in our own country. So that's all that you can do. Show yourself kindness, show others kindness, be patient, and just don't give up, don't lose hope. And I think in the end, we're all going to be okay. We've survived as a world many things worse than what perhaps is coming. I hope that that's the truth. We'll survive this as well. And on the other side of the coin, in the exact same breath, we can go and say, it might not even be that bad, right? We don't know. It's just speculation. It's just fear. It's just anxiety. Things are happening and you're like, holy crap, like what's going to come of all of this? But at the end of the day, we really don't know. And if I'm going to choose to put my energy in something, it's going to be in remaining hopeful as a human being and focusing on what I can change. So that's me, how I impact others. I can focus on that. I can change that. I can't change the political landscape. I can't change wars that are happening at this moment. I'm one person. But if we love inward, that then comes outward, we're going to show the world a level of kindness that may help calm things down a bit. Who knows? But that's me doing my part. So that pretty much concludes my season 1 finale. I'm really excited. I want to literally once again thank all of my guests, like all of them, for being on the show this year. You don't know how much you being on the show has impacted my little heart and my life. For you choosing to be here and having that conversation. Like I literally feel like I'm winning the lottery every time I get to connect with you and have wonderful conversations and grow and be challenged. So just a deep, heartfelt thank you to everyone that appeared on Poddin My Noggin this year. To everyone who's tuned in, the same, like deep, 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 heartfelt gratitude for all of you who've watched or consumed any of the show in the past year. I want to wish everybody an incredible Happy New Year. And I hope that your 2025 is everything that you have set it up to be, right? Go forth with your intention of what you want your year to be. Make decisions that align with your intention and seize your growth. Take it, learn, live, love, laugh. All the cliches, all in the one. I'll see you next year, everyone. Happy New Year's.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@ccsims.com or visit ccsims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.